Good morning, everybody, and welcome to episode 83 of the Ask the Coach show, where PingSkills answers your table tennis questions. Today, we get to see Alois demonstrate live on the show his trick of rolling the ball from one side to the other. We're also going to talk about the rules around playing for another country, the tomahawk serve, defenders, and the mysterious disappearing penholder. Good morning, Alois. Are you ready to show the world your amazing trick?
Yes, indeed, Jeffrey. Indeed.
Yeah, well, it was interesting to hear you describe this trick about rolling the ball from one side to the other, and there's been a few comments that your tips had helped them, and they're actually getting better at this skill.
Yeah, and I think also, someone else, was it Dita? Maybe Dita put some really good tips on there as well. The main thing is, I mean, it's a little bit of a trick. The main thing is that what you're trying to do is you're trying to get the ball from there to there. If you throw the ball up and then turn your bat over as it's at the top of the bounce, I'll try and demonstrate to you. So so throw it up and then turn it over. Throw it up and then turn it over. So you're following.
Bend down just a little, it just goes out of shot.
Okay, so you're throwing the ball up and then turning it over. Throw it up and then turn your bat over. So I'll go back a little bit.
This is exciting, Alois. Go again.
It is exciting, isn't it, Jeff? So then as you get a little bit more confident, then it starts to look like you're just rolling it over from side to side, that to that.
That is great, Alois, and I bet this is even better for people listening on the audio podcast.
Yeah, that would be a hoot.
Yes. So don't forget, you can find all our shows on pingskills.com and go to the blog link. You'll see all the past shows there, and also you can subscribe on iTunes and listen to it as an audio podcast. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed that. That was pretty exciting, Alois. Great trick, great trick.
Yeah, we know how to entertain.
Yes, indeed. Now, yesterday we were talking about players moving to other countries and how they can represent the country when they move over. And there's quite a few rules around that, Alois. Do you want to just run through some of those rules that we found out?
Yeah, so Graham Ireland to the rescue again. So Graham Ireland, probably one of the best refs in the world. He answered our question for us. So what it is? So firstly, you have to have a full or be a national of the country that you want to represent. Now you can't represent two different countries within 3 years, as we talked about yesterday. But there's also some rules around the age that you move from one country to another. So if you are under 15 when you move countries, then you have to wait 3 years after the date of registration. If you're between 15 and 18, you have to wait 5 years. If you're between 18 and 21, you have to wait 7 years. And if you're, now he says here, players being 21 years of age or older will not be registered with the ITTF and will not be eligible to represent a new association at Worlds. So after the age of 21, basically you can't change countries.
Yeah, see, and I just feel that they've gone too hard with those rules. I mean, over 21 switch countries, that's it. You can't play at the Worlds. I think it's too hard. Even 18, if you switch after you're 18, it's 7 years. You can't play till you're 25. And I guess I've heard some discussion about players marrying other players and wanting to move to another country, and then they can't play for that country. Yeah, I just don't. I think they're trying to solve a problem that's not that big a problem, and I think they've gone too hard. That's just my personal opinion on the matter. Do you have any thoughts on it, Alois?
I tend to agree, because when I look at it from the point of view of the players that have come over to Australia, I think it would be really harsh for them. But I also see that when you look at a draw and you see all expat Chinese players playing against each other, it tends to take away from the ability of a nation to build the players' level. So it's then not as reflective of the country's development. It's more about who has moved to that country.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Yeah.
In football or soccer as we call it, I mean at the top level in clubs, I mean basically there's movement all the time. Not necessarily, I'm not talking about the national teams, but we're still really interested in all the teams, even though they're buying players in from other sides. So so it's not really about their development either. But I just think as a nation, I think there needs to be some indication of a nation's ability to develop players as well.
Yeah, okay, it's interesting. But then for Australia, we had a top player, William Hensel, but he basically lived in Sweden to improve his table tennis. So when he comes back and does well for Australia, it doesn't indicate our level here as much as the development he had in Sweden. So is there much difference?
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Jeffrey. Good point.
So yeah, anyway, it's a very interesting topic. If you've got any thoughts, leave a comment, and we'd love to hear from you. All right, Alois, let's get on to the PingSkills question of the day from yesterday, which is, when your opponent makes a service error, do you say thank you?
Certainly don't. And I remember this really bugging me when I was young. There was an old guy in the competition that I used to play. A funny old guy, but and he used to try to upset you with little things, and he used to always say thank you when you served a fault. And I remember being so angry about it. I mean, now I don't think it'd worry me too much, but yeah, it certainly did worry me at the time. I was thinking, why is he saying thank you? That's so condescending. I didn't think condescending at the time because I didn't know that word, but yeah, I was annoyed at the time. So yeah, I think if it's you doing it, just stop it. Don't do it.
Yeah, exactly. I remember some things along these lines, Alice. You're talking about an old player, and I remember, I don't know if it's the same player, but I remember on a different subject playing this guy, and he was kind of a defender, kind of lobber, kind of mixing up shots, and he would go back from the table and he'd sort of lob the ball and he'd keep getting it back, and eventually I'd miss it and he'd yell out, "That's just too good." It was just really annoying. But with the faulty, I don't generally say it, but I remember once when I was young and it was one of my early on tournaments and I really wanted to do well, and I was playing this guy and I got off to a really bad start and I was down quite a bit, and I was just coming back, and I think it got to like 10-9, and then he served the fault, and I was so interested in getting up to the right score that I was like, yes, when he served the fault. I mean, just really, really rude, I know. And he just gave me the first look and said something to me, and I went on to win the match. No. So don't do that either. That's probably even worse than saying thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting though. At international level though, the players or the teams often clap when the other person serves a fault, and even edges and nets and that sort of thing, and they just it's just accepted by some countries. Not I think in general, a lot of the European nations won't do it, but I mean it is accepted internationally, and you just know that when you're competing internationally, that's just what happens.
Interesting. All right, well let's talk about the PingSkills question for today, which is, how long can Samsonov stay competitive with the best in the world?
Well, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Look, it'd be interesting to hear people's thoughts. He's 39 years of age.
39 and still winning ITTF Pro Tour events. Good work, Samsonov. So leave a comment. You can go to pingskills.com, click on the blog link, and you'll find this show where you can leave your comment. Love to hear your thoughts on Samsonov, the 39-year-old. All right, Alois, let's take a question from Brock, who's jumped on again, a regular viewer, and asked a question using the Google Q&A app, which you can all do by going to our Google Plus page. But now Brock says, hey, PingSkills, your tip for the loop with backspin and sidespin didn't work. Do you have any other tip to block it? I'm frustrated.
Yeah, no, it's such an awkward stroke to try and counter. So when they play with side spin and backspin, and it's almost like, you almost need to treat it like a chop, a side spin chop. So maybe you can just open up the bat a little bit more and try to push the ball back. If he's really generating a lot of backspin, yeah, so maybe you need to open it up and almost push it back. But the other thing is to try and stop him from playing that shot. So he'll play that shot when you put the ball into a certain position and off a certain type of spin. So maybe try to just stay away from that area. I think it's usually easier to do that when the ball's a little bit closer to you on your forehand side. If the ball's out wider on the forehand, it's harder for him to do it. And certainly if the ball's on the backhand, then it becomes even harder. So yeah. So maybe think about that as well.
Yeah, good points. I'm trying hard to sort of picture this shot because a loop I always think of as having topspin, but if you're coming underneath it, it's actually more like a push, like you said. So maybe you should think about trying to push the ball back if it really does have backspin. But yeah, like you said, Alice, it's not going to be an easy shot for him to play, I don't think. So if you can get some speed on the ball, it's going to be harder for him. And like you said, if you also place it wider, it could be harder. So try those things out. But yeah, it does sound like a frustrating shot, Brock.
Yeah, there was a player in Melbourne, Peter Sheedy. Do you remember Peter Sheedy?
I remember Peter Sheedy, yes.
Yeah, so Peter Sheedy used to do this all the time. He'd be back there lobbing and then he'd give you a backspin, side spin ball, and gee, it got really awkward. So yeah, it's a matter of just learning to deal with it as well.
Yeah. So, and if you've got time, you could actually play like a top spin off backspin shot, which would be quite effective too. But again, just takes a bit of practice. So good luck, Brock. Let us know how you go. All right, Alois. Lucas has jumped on and asked a question. Thanks, Lucas. He said, today at school, I played against one of the best players in my club, and he won 15-13. None of us were trying our hardest, but I was still happy about the result. He's been playing a lot longer than me, so I think I've improved a lot in just 4 weeks.
Yeah, that's really impressive, Lucas. It's nice when you feel yourself improving and you start to get some good results in your matches. So yeah, well done. It must be some good improvement happening in 4 weeks.
Yes, well done, Lucas. Keep the hard work up. Good to hear. All right, now we've got a question from Huzafa, who says, I have seen many people doing the tomahawk serve, and they say that this is a very special serve. I don't seem to see anything special in it. Why?
Yeah. So the tomahawk, there's 2 real forms of it. There's one where you're just placing the ball on the table with that's quite slow, and so you're relying on the placement. You're relying on keeping the ball low over the net. And then there's the big tomahawk serve where you really wind up and you're doing that sort of thing. It's almost like a tennis serve. So you're bending down low and really ripping through the ball that way. So they both have their advantages. So this one here, where you're just placing the ball well, you don't give the other person much speed to work with, and because you're keeping it really low, it makes it difficult to get the ball back or to make an effective return that's going to be difficult for the server. This one here, you can really start to generate a lot of spin on the ball, and the disguise between the top spin and the back spin can be quite difficult for your opponent to read as well. So yeah, so that's why that one's effective. And then they also do the reverse tomahawk. So instead of hitting it that way, they come through and they hit the ball with the other side of the racket. which adds another dimension to the serve to make
Yeah,
it better.
I guess the serve looks quite simple, Alois, and it's like in clear view, which all serves are meant to be now. So I guess that's why it looks like it's maybe not effective. But it's not the most common serve, so people also aren't used to seeing it and probably aren't used to playing it. And you can get some different angles with it also because you serve it from more out to your right, so you're not serving it from the backhand side where the pendulum serve is. So again, it's coming from a different angle. So there's a lot of variations there, and I think it's those facts also that make it difficult for some people to return it. They're not used to seeing the serve. It's hard for them to pick just the variations, and the angles are different. So it's worth a try. Yeah, so Hazard, try the serve out and see if you can use it in a few matches and see if it's effective for you.
Yeah, and Brock's said there, you know, which serve do you prefer? Like I prefer doing the pendulum serve, but and I prefer returning the pendulum serve, but I don't like returning the tomahawk. I just find it harder to see the variations, just because I've seen the pendulum serve so much, but I haven't seen the tomahawk serve as much.
Yeah, I'm probably the same. Just because when I was growing up, the pendulum serve was so popular, everybody served that. So you got more used to that serve. So the tomahawk was a bit rarer. So you always were a little bit unsure about returning it. So yeah, thanks for that, Brock. All right. Now, Nick has jumped on and asked a question. Thanks, Nick. He says, it was recently suggested to me by a much better player, I'm a beginner, that I should keep my wrist angled a little down. He says it will be important to move to the next level. I've been using a straight wrist shake hand grip. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So when you're beginning, especially, it's important to just have a neutral wrist. So if you've got your arm there or your hand there, that's what your wrist looks like. So it doesn't look like this and it doesn't look like this. So when you put your bat in your hand, that's what your wrist should look like. If you start to do this sort of thing and play, okay, one, you're going to injure your wrist, and two, you're going to start to lead to more errors and start to get different spin on the ball. So yeah, initially, really important to just keep a nice neutral wrist when you're learning strokes.
Okay, that's good. And that neutral wrist will allow you later on to use wrist in your backhand shots and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So as you develop, then as you're relaxing through your stroke, it'll naturally go through the ball. So because it's nice and relaxed, you'll be able to do that. If you're bending your wrist to try and play strokes, then it's already in a locked position and it's tight. And so when you start to try and do more things, it's really forcing it through. So keep it neutral, keep it relaxed, and then the arm will flow through later on as you start to develop your strokes.
Great. All right. Thanks for the question, Nick. All right. Next question is from CokeJez95, who says, hi, PingSkills. After 10 years of playing, I have developed quite effective serves, but still I keep missing too many serves in a match. Do you have any tips to improve my consistency in serving?
Yeah, so it comes back to your service practice or your service training. So it's easy. Well, it's easier in a training situation to just go out there and serve and serve and serve. You know, you might even have a bucket of balls. You pick one up, you serve it. Pick one up, you serve it, without really thinking about it, without really going through a situation in your mind like it's serving in a match. So in your training, just stop yourself each time. Try to do a pre-point routine or a preparation like you would be in a match situation, or even if you're doing practice games, make sure that you're going through your routine as you normally would in a real match situation. So, you know, make sure firstly that you've only got one ball that you're playing with. So you've got time to go back, pick up the ball, come back, have a think about what serve you're going to do, and play your routine, and then do your serve. So just practicing under similar sort of mental pressure as you would in a match situation will then help you to transfer that skill into the match as well.
Okay, good tips there, Alois, and thank you for the question. All right, now Lucas has asked, he says, when I get a heavy topspin serve, I tend to go a little bit back and loop the ball back. Should I continue doing that, or should I try and get used to the tips in your video on heavy topspin?
Yeah, no, I think you need to try and stay close. If it's a topspin serve or a fast topspin serve, if you go back, then you're giving away your advantage. So with the topspin serve, they can't serve it fast enough that it's going to go past you if you're watching the ball carefully. So firstly, watch the ball carefully, stay reasonably close to the table, and then just either topspin the ball or block the ball back to position. So if you go back and give yourself too much time, then you're giving away your time advantage. So yeah, if they're going to just serve a topspin serve, you need to utilize that and be a little bit more aggressive by staying close to the table, I think.
Yeah, and if you do stay close, Alois, you don't have to really rip it really fast to make it effective, because you're not going to give your opponent much time. So you can play quite a controlled topspin stroke, and it's still going to put a lot of pressure on your opponent.
Yeah, that's right. So they're not going to have much time at all. So yeah, give that a go.
All right, good one. Thanks, Lucas. And one more question from Brock. He says, how can I improve my balance? Now, I know you're big on balance, Alois. This is a really important part of table tennis.
Yeah, definitely. So balance is about having good footwork, having a good stance. So being nice and low in your position when you're playing. So making sure that you don't stand up like this with your head chopped off. Get down nice and low. Bend your knees, get your center of gravity nice and low, so then it's easier for you to move, and it's easier for you to stop as well. So the wide stance is important, the low stance is important to start off with, and then you just got to do lots and lots of footwork drills and practices, and you'll find plenty of training drills that you can try out in our free downloads as well.
Great. All right, I'll put some links to those. The basic stance, which shows that nice wide and low stance to give you really good balance, and to the drills to show you can do some footwork drills. Okay, great. Now let's move on to a question from Viet, who says, nowadays I see defenders and penholders are getting fewer. Most of the top players are now playing shake hand style and attack. For example, Juicy Hook is the only defender that is well known. Also, Zhu Xin and Wang Hao are the only penholders.
Yeah, it is getting a little bit that way, isn't it? But Zhu Xin's doing all right for himself. But yeah, I mean, I think it is that they are getting less. There's not much we can do about it really, because I think, you know, and it's sort of it's a bit self-fulfilling too. So the more players that are playing shake hand, the more young players see that that's the way to play, and so that's how they start as well. So, and as far as defenders, yeah, defending is such a difficult art nowadays, because of the speed and the way that players can attack. But I don't know, I just get a feeling that defenders are coming back a little bit. Especially, there's a few Japanese defenders around now that are doing well. So yeah, hopefully defenders don't disappear. I think for me the most entertaining matches to watch is when an attacker's playing a defender. You know, it's just beautiful to watch, and the rallies that happen. And I think even for the general public that don't know a lot about table tennis, I reckon that is pretty spectacular to watch as well.
Yeah, it certainly is good to see, and I think just as they become rarer, people are going to get less used to playing them, so there's kind of maybe more of an opportunity to be a defender and do well. So yeah, it's definitely exciting, and like you said, there's a few Japanese choppers coming through, so hopefully they continue to progress. With the penholders, Alice, it's interesting because most of the penholders now are using the reverse penhold backhand, and when you first look at it, it almost looks like they're playing shake hand. So again, if they start to use that shot, they lose the advantage of having the middle. So it kind of does bring the question up, is there much advantage to using that over a shake hand grip?
Yeah, it does become interesting. It's I think well, it'll be interesting to see over the next 10 years what happens. I certainly don't have a crystal ball to know, but yeah, I have a feeling that shakehanders will just keep on getting larger. But yeah, let's see. It'd be nice to see some variation and some different styles because it makes the game a lot more interesting to watch.
It does, yeah. So if I had to predict, I would say, yeah, we would get more shake-handers and a less percentage of penholders, but I think around the same percentage of defenders. It would be my crystal ball gazing, but again, I don't really know. Let's see what happens, Alois.
Indeed, indeed. Yep.
Okay. Now, Nick's just jumped on and asked another question, Alois. He says, I am finding it takes me a long time, like a couple of hours of playing, to be really able to play at my peak. Have you got any advice or warm-ups that might help?
Sorry, can you say that one again, Jeff?
I can. He says, I'm finding it takes me a long time, like a couple of hours, to be playing at my peak. Have you got any advice or warm-ups that might help me get ready and able to play at my peak faster?
Yeah, I think just warming up a little bit more before your matches is important. So get out there and do some physical warming up before you start. So run around a little bit, get the heart rate up. I think that helps, and also just your preparation before a match. If you do get a chance to do some hitting, just make sure that you do a lot of hitting. Again, getting the heart rate up, but then also do some practice with like in a point or a game situation as well. So do some points, play some rallies, do some serving, do some return of serve, and that might help you.
Yeah, good tips, Alice. I found the same. I found that if I was almost sweating before I started playing, so actually doing some running or jumping or some side shuffling, that helped. But then definitely doing some backspin practice, maybe some short pushing, and also a top spin off the backspin. And if I got those things right and practiced those a little bit before my match, I found I was able to play well. So there's some tips for you, Nick. All right, well, thanks everyone for watching the show. Brock says he's going to meet the tall guy tomorrow, possibly. So good luck, Brock. Go get him, see what you can do. Make sure you visit pingskills.com, everybody. Lots of good resources. Sign up for our free newsletter, and we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks, Alois.
Yeah, good luck, Brock, and yeah, good luck, all PingSkillers. Make sure you get some table tennis in today. See you tomorrow.
See you, everyone, and thanks, everyone, for asking questions. Bye.